Hello, Shoyan here. The kitchen unit has been installed, so I'm building the counter in front of it, doing the wainscoting and finishing up the wall. I start with the counter in front of the kitchen unit. I went to the mill, looked around for something good and sanded one myself. But it's hard to find live edge boards that are actually decent.
こう耳ってなんか傷ついとんの？
これ製材の爪の跡。爪があるね、製材に。ここに丸太がこれドンと刺して。じゃーん。
製材するときにこれつくの？
これひっくり返らないね。
This one was cut with the intention of being used as a live edge counter or table. But the log was a little too clean and uniform. Personally, I like pieces with more character, like a nice root flare, so I went looking for one. But it's never easy to find the exact piece you have in mind. This is still a nice, tight-grained piece of hinoki. With a slab this wide, I can't run it through the planer to get the thickness right. This board's a bit much for the jointer, but let's just say the standards board looked the other way. A jointer can flatten one face, but unfortunately not the thickness. If I had a heavy-duty planer made for counter slabs that could handle grain in all directions, I'd be fine. I had to finish both faces manually with a hand plane, which means the thickness isn't perfectly uniform. Even if I measure all four corners, they won't match. But as long as the top edge is level, a little variation underneath doesn't matter. Once it's all planed out, I think it'll look good. It's been a while since I've hand-planed a hinoki board this wide. Back when I was still an apprentice, I used to plane cutting boards from sushi restaurants at the end of the year. I'd go pick them up in the truck. They were always scratched up, smelled like vinegar, and had a weird smell. Planing those boards is what this reminded me of. More recently, maybe 20 years ago, I did a counter for a traditional sushi restaurant that was a little wider and longer than this. Since then, I haven't really had a chance to work with a hinoki board this big. I've finished prepping the counter. Next, I'm making the door jamb extensions for the studio entrance. I'm using the same hinoki wood and the shape is nothing special. Just standard 45mm by 120mm stock. It'll stick out a bit more than usual, but I'm just building a basic one. These days, you don't see many solid wood door or window jamb extensions anymore. Back in the day, we did all the prep work in the carpenter's workshop, and we'd spend several days on site cutting all the joinery. Now you can finish something like door extensions in a day or two. Since the extensions stick out quite a bit from the wall, if I join them the usual way, the side grain ends up showing. So instead, I'm using a deep mortise and tenon joint and securing it from the top. I could use wooden plugs from the side, but that looks too plain. To join them firmly from the top, I'd rather go with the deeper mortise and tenon joint for this door jamb extension. Now I'm installing the counter in front of the kitchen unit. Instead of just attaching it, I'm building it in. Whether for new construction or renovation, this is actually my first time doing things in this order. Installing the kitchen unit first, then adding the counter and wall after. That's because this isn't one of those open kitchen setups. It's just a standard kitchen unit placed in the middle of the room. If I'd built tall walls around it, they would have blocked the camera and made filming hard. So we kept it flat and open. Using a prefab counter and calling it done wouldn't have been very interesting. The plan is to blend this hinoki counter with the kitchen unit. If there were walls around the kitchen, they'd just get in the way of the cameras. So I figured it would be better to install the kitchen unit in the middle first, then build the counter and walls around it to match the size and height. Also, space is tight. This room is only about 10.9 square meters. The kitchen unit runs along the short side. If I'd installed the wall and counter first, it would have made it really hard for the kitchen installer to work. So we started from the back, sink cabinets first, then the counter. All of that's why the kitchen unit went in first. As long as it looks clean in the end, the order doesn't really matter. Just happens to be my first time doing it this way. The walls for the counter's front and on the room's wall side are fine, but on the left side, there's no space for a wall. If I put a wall there, no one could walk through. So after thinking it over, we decided to use a log post to support that end. The question was where to place it. If I put it all the way in the corner, we'd gain an extra seat. But typically, with counters like this, the post is set in about one post width from the edge. This one's a decorative log post with both a textured and polished finish. I'm setting it in about 1 diameter from the edge of the counter. The bottom sits on the floor so it won't shift, but the counter on top can warp or loosen over time. So I'm using a mortise and tenon joint just in that spot. I'm making the tenon long and the mortise deep to match. Obviously, I can't run the log all the way through, so I'm joining it firmly with this joint just at the top. The floor doesn't tend to move much, so the log should stay nice and stable. As long as the top and bottom are secured, short or long, the process is the same. Mark the center lines, transfer them down the side, draw a right angle line, and cut the shoulders based on that line. This kind of log is mostly used for tokonoma, but using them like this works great too. Even with square posts, it's hard enough to cut and attach them perfectly straight. But this one's round. If there's even a slight twist, it won't sit flush. And if you mess up adjusting it, it only gets worse. So whether it's short or long, I always start by marking the center, then transfer the line down the side and draw a right angle line from there, both clockwise and counterclockwise. That usually gets it right. Personally, I really enjoy working with logs. Now I start working on the counter. First, I cut it to length. Once it's cut, I plane the end grain clean with a hand plane. I'm not doing any anti-split processing since the entire counter, including the exposed cut end, will be coated with urethane later.
今までこんな綺麗に出たことあるっけ？
いつもや。
The post is short, but I make the mortise and tenon snug.
そこそこよくなる。おい。
The joint landed right on a floor seam, so I give it a few taps with a hammer to straighten it out. Planing would just make it worse. Now I fit the counter into place. For the end that goes into the wall, I seal it properly to prevent cracking. That part won't be coated with urethane since it'll be buried in the wall. I apply plenty of glue to the tenon and fit it in.
なんないの？よしや。
はい。はい、OK。あった。ついた。ついた。
Ideally, I'd sandwich it with furring strips to secure it. That works for the part that goes into the wall. But the side that touches the kitchen unit and the open left side can only be secured from below. I attach it while quietly hoping it stays put. I clamp the kitchen unit and the counter together with a long bar clamp. Since the back of the kitchen unit has an enamel coating, wood glue won't stick. So I coat it thoroughly with urethane glue. I need to make sure these two pieces become one without any gaps. That would be no good at all. Now that the counter's in, I move on to the wainscoting around it. I'm using hinoki. The floor is cedar, and I thought about doing the wainscoting in cedar too, but I figured changing up the tone a bit would help it stand out more. Wainscoting might remind you of the paneling behind seats in izakaya, but it's not just for backrest. Damage tends to happen below the waist. Nobody scuffs the wall above their belt. So wainscoting started as a way to reinforce the lower section. There are Japanese style and Western style versions. In this case, the floor is cedar and the wainscoting above that is hinoki. Even with wainscoting, darker tones usually go on the bottom and lighter ones on top, just like in nature where tree stumps are darker. It's all about balance. The corner was at the perfect height. Glad there's no hair to mess up. It's a little lower than typical wainscoting, but I wanted it to line up with the counter. This way, when the chair rail is in, it will all feel seamless. Above the wainscoting will be drywall with a wallpaper finish. First, I run the baseboard and then the chair rail that lines up with the counter's height. I made all the measurements based on the counter. It might feel a bit low, but it doesn't look out of place. Everything feels nicely balanced. If the height didn't match, it would throw off the whole look. Deciding on horizontal lines is always the trickiest part of design. I fastened the baseboard with a pin nailer, but I obviously don't want to use any pins in the chair rail. I only use wood glue for that part. Lastly, I install the crown molding, and that's a wrap.
YouTube スタジオできました。どうですか、社長。仕上がりは。
めちゃめちゃ気に入ってます。
そうですか。
ありがとうございました。
正直ね、ちょっと心配だったんですけどね。
そうですよね。
ちょっとこの、割烹風になってしまってね。
いや、めっちゃかっこいい感じで。
実はね、敦賀のカニの専門店ですよね。松米さんのコラボで YouTube スタジオ作ろうかっていう話をもらってね。そして受けさせてもらったんですよね。
こんな有名な方に、
作
っていただけるなんて、めちゃめちゃ光栄です。
それでね、今日は、この、越前ガニ、動いてますよ。これを、この社長さんの方からね、食べさせてもらえる。これ楽しみにね、工事しとったもんなんですよ、正直はね。松野さんもね、YouTube やってます。このコラボで、このカニをいただける。楽しみにしてます。
ぜひ美味しいカニ頑張って準備しますんで、食べてください。
ぜひ、この松野さんのチャンネルもね、見てください。これで、YouTube スタジオのキッチン完成です。以上、Renovationでした。